Yee-Haw, adventurers, merry almost Christmas, happy close to Hanukkah, and good tidings for not yet Yule or whatever else you celebrate. So in addition to regular VR chat, I wanted to expand the stories archive yet again. We got weird stories from my IRL adventures, and now we got D&D stories since I love D&D. What's that? You don't know what D&D is? Don't ask where the wizard hat came from. I didn't write any world lore about it, and no, I didn't plan an encounter for it. You're just gonna have to deal with it. And yes, its name can be Fred. Now, hold up. I need to go back to accounting for the rogue rolling a nat 1 on sleight of hand while the bard sings as the ranger sets him secretly on fire. D&D. God, I love D&D. It's my favorite game in the entire world, and I've been a forever DM for almost 15 years. That's not an exaggeration. God, please someone save me. I started playing tabletop RPGs when I was about 11 years old, and no one else wanted to be a DM, so I threw on that cloak and, well, now it's practically a part of my skin. I went and put all my points into writing and world building, so excuse the fantasy pictures, as the best a goblin like me could do without any kind of drawing experience. So yeah, I've been a DM for almost 15 years. I've been a player in 4 games total in those many years that have completed, along with several one-shots or short campaigns that all kind of collapse like the weight of a neutron star suddenly fell upon the group. In that time, I've met every kind of horrible player you can imagine, and all the good ones too, but me being stupidly optimistic, I refuse to be deterred by literally anything, so I'm going to share my favorite D&D stories, horror stories, and memorable stories in order to 1. Continue editing because editing videos is my jam, and 2. Talk about D&D because I love D&D. It's my favorite game ever, so I'm going to talk about it a lot because I can. Yes, there will still be VR chat theater and weird stories is going to continue. I'm one man sitting in a corner going as fast as I can. Relax, please, go easy on me. Anyways, so you read the title. Let me tell you the story of a guy I'm calling Stabbin Steve. His name wasn't actually Steve, it's just for privacy purposes, of course. One of the first times I was a player was when I was in my early teens. I'd found a huge group of DMs and players that swap back and forth, so it seemed like a good place to start. I joined in and it was a pretty healthy mix. A small group of about 4 players and a DM with a ton of experience. I was basically the only quote-unquote kid of the group, so the players were really nice and explained a lot. The DM, however, was a massive that guy that thought dealing with a kid was beneath him. However, I wasn't the source of his ire because clearly the only thing the wrecking ball of regret hated was a fish that was not me in that ocean. More on that in a bit, so listen closely. The game went well enough for the first few sessions, got a level up, learned that I like milestone over experience points-based progression, and yes, any DMs or players out there that think otherwise, fight me in the backyard, but please go easy because I bruise like a banana. I also discovered that when the DM constantly says no, shut up, that might be a red flag that they really don't like you. But me? Get down about someone telling me no? No, D&D is awesome, and looking back on it, my ideas were stupid. I mean, come on, tame a giant squirrel and bring my pet rock Zathar to life? Brilliant, but also brain dead in the hands of a child. Do you know what an artificer with animal handling can do in 5e? My fighter also was pretty neat, human fighter, because I was talked into it being great for beginners, and it was. Very combat oriented, and I didn't know anything about roleplay, so it kind of worked out for me. Then the DM started to get...
Heresy! Remove this filth!
Creepy, extremely creepy. We had one girl in the group that this guy apparently had one hell of a thing for. Besides the problem of him not being able to separate character from player, he was in his mid-20s and she was like 17. Now besides the clear favoritism in the form of an amazing magic sword in a chest for her, and me getting chomped by a mimic in the next, and the other guys finding some copper and silver pieces in the same room, this dude also clearly did not like that the rest of us were interfering in his self-insert with a DM NPC he had. And God, do I hate those things so much. I actually stayed in contact with one of the guys for a while, one of the players, and they explained to me what the hell a self-insert DM type was, and man, that was one hell of an introduction into D&D itself. Now it gets more wild because I had to miss the next 2 sessions due to school because, again, I was in my early teens and had school, studying, and the no man's land of puberty to deal with, but one of the players had finally contacted me to let me know that the game was halted indefinitely. Wanting to know why, I dug a little deeper, and basically the DM had packed extra crusty creepazoid tactics into his game and outside of it. So much so he tried to grab the girl's hand and leg, which in turn caused another player to stab the guy with a pen of all things. Straight up, man. man stabbed the DM in the arm with a pen, and the wildest part, as told to me, was the other DMs just kind of let it happen because they'd been looking for a reason to boot this DM guy out for a while, but he never went beyond being weird within the game itself. Pen Guy also had to leave for obvious reasons, but hey, it was a small shop in a small area, who the hell cares, he was back after a week, and probably as a hero. So afterwards I had to find other groups and started to write my own campaign like a good little forever DM. Stabbin Steve, if you ever see this, thank you for giving me those extra gold pieces to get a snazzy magic warhammer. Ogrin the Human Fighter will forever remember you, friend. Thanks for watching. D&D is a wonderful game when you play with good friends or a great group of strangers, and this story is not meant to represent the whole community. I'm personally playing in a game right now with some very wonderful people I'll have stories about later, but for now, I hope you enjoyed this. Roll those perception checks for the next one, and excuse me as I roll a con save to get lost in the sauce. Yee-Haw, and have a good time out there, adventurers.